The Relief Society president came over today and brought me my favorite snack overseas candy. And if you're following my journey back to the Mormon church, the LDS church, Latter-day Saint church, this has been one of the really touching things about coming back, is having people, leaders, come and visit us and just try to get to know us. To be honest, I know her. I've known her for years. And so that was a little bit of a trepidatious process for me to communicate with the Relief Society and Relief Society president and invite her into my home. I mean, she's the sweetest person, and it wasn't any kind of like personal like beef I had with her or anything. It was more just like, it's hard to come back when you've left and you've been so vocal about leaving. Not to mention, like, these are little things you think about, but like, I have a lot more tattoos now coming back to the church, which is not in and of itself like at all a thing. I get that. However, growing up culturally in the church and having these ideas about like what's acceptable and what isn't, it has been a little bit of a mind F to think about these things. Like when I'm sitting in church, like, oh, my tattoos are showing. I don't need to be worried about that. And it's like, I kind of have to go through like this mental process to be at church and to recognize that a lot of these things that are implanted in my head are habitual from childhood, and that the church has changed a lot. And so I've gotten a lot of people in my comment section talking about like how they have also been out of the church for 15 plus years, and they've also had their records removed, and what is it like for me to come back? So I'm hoping that like by me talking about kind of the mental process of going back and meeting with church leaders, and sometimes how it's nerve-wracking, and you know, dealing with feelings of unworthiness or not fitting in, and how I kind of work through that, I hope that that's helping people. But all in all, it was an absolutely wonderful experience having her. And I'm just going to say right now, like, having loving people in our life that are rooting for us, that are kind and good-hearted, has been a much needed blessing. There's been a gap in our life of that. You know, I've talked about this in no uncertain terms about just the years leading up to us coming back to church. And, you know, I went through a divorce, which can be hard. Divorce is like the hardest thing you can ever go through. There's a lot of intense emotions around getting a divorce. And there's hard feelings when you get a divorce. And then, you know, bringing new people into your lives and having to co-parent is extremely hard. You know, also people that left the church with me, you know, are no longer my friends. And so that was hard. And I think being back in the church and seeing how loving people are, for this Relief Society president to bring me like C's candy, which is literally my favorite thing, and just talk with me for 30 minutes in my, you know, foyer of my house and welcome me to Relief Society. I feel a lot better about going. I'm not so nervous about it anymore. It doesn't mean that I'm not nervous. I am nervous. But you know, I've had a few thoughts over the last few weeks coming back to church and realizing that a lot of the fear that I have and the like trepidation about jumping back in is in my mind. It's my mind, and it's shown me ways that I have deeper healing to do. It's seeing people from my past, like the Relief Society president, and realizing that, you know, she may have heard things about me. She may have watched some of my older videos where I'm angry, but we as humans are allowed to evolve. We are allowed to change our minds. We are allowed to experience life and experience the things that different, you know, churches and communities have to offer us. There are infinite ways to live our lives. And I pride myself in being the type of person that has really taken life like a bull by the horns, and I've really lived it. And I've had a lot of experiences, and I've been in the church, I've been out of the church. I've had no tattoos, I've been covered in tattoos. This is simplifying a very intricate process, but there are infinite ways to live life, and I'm allowed to return to church after years of not being in it, and recognizing the things that I truly missed about being in church. And it feels like a homecoming of sorts. I've been like teary-eyed all day because I don't know why. Like, this is going to sound really cliche, but I feel what I would have said, 15 years ago is I feel the Lord working on my heart. I feel the Lord or God or Mother Gaia. I don't know who it is yet. I don't know that I'll ever know that. I'm okay with God being unknowable right now at this point in my life, but I feel God working on my heart and making me more tender, more sensitive, more tender. And coming back to church feels like a homecoming. And it feels like I've been out in the world living life to the fullest, having experiences, learning and growing in wisdom, and now I'm returning home to the place that feels familiar, where my ancestors are and where my people are. And it feels really, really good.